Okay, we are live with Warrior Women in Business podcast, episode number 69. I'm really excited about today because at Warrior Women in Business, one of our main focus of Warrior Women in Business is to help women grow financially. I've had some great guests on, but I've never had anyone like today's guest, who I think to me embodies what it takes to get to the next level as a woman, not just a woman in business, but we do a lot around professional and personal growth here at Warrior Women in Business, but how you really invest in yourself. And today we're going to be talking about investments in assets. We're going to be talking about finance and financial investments and something very unique and special with an all women's fund, which I'm really excited to learn about. So before we get started, I have a little bit of things to kind of share with you guys, especially if you're new to Warrior Women in Business, a quick intro. So Warrior Women in Business is a subset or division of my main business, JS Media, which is a branding and digital marketing agency that's been serving the needs of executives and mid-market companies since 2006 to help them move forward in digital marketing and in brand development and brand protection in a very smart way. The majority of the clients there have been female. So back in 2016, I started Warrior Women in Business as a podcast, really, a podcast and more of an educational series to support growing female entrepreneurs and women in the arts. My name is Jasmine Sandler, if I forgot to mention that. So since then, I've been speaking to many women's groups, both in corporate as well as entrepreneurial groups, about kind of what it takes to level up and not just brand themselves, but really build businesses. And for me personally, and for a lot of the members, it's about driving impact as warrior women. So that's Warrior Women in Business. I've been really, really, really lucky to have such amazing guests on this podcast. I've had leaders in government, I've had leaders in entertainment, I've had leaders in law, you name it. My last podcast guest, Chandra Marshall, at Lockheed Martin, is a VP that oversees thousands of people helping to protect our countries, kind of major people. And at the end of the day, they're women. And at the end of the day, we talk about things that affect women. With Chandra, we actually talked a lot about what it's like to be a mom. And it was a great episode. And we talked about how she works in a male-dominated industry and how she prevails in some of the obstacles that she's come across. Warrior Women in Business is really a place for leaders to come and connect with other leaders. And also, Warrior Women in Business as a member organization has a special place for executives. We have an entire executive membership program, mentoring program, and opportunities for executives to share their stories at our events, which we hold primarily in New York City and Beverly Hills. All of those things you can find on our website, warriorwomenbusiness.com. And as part of today's podcast, and then I'm going to jump right into the episode, as part of today's podcast, something special that we're doing, we always do something special, is we are giving away our Warrior Women Classic t-shirt. There's an RSVP link that you'll be able to find to enter into that contest and win a shirt, because it's getting hot and you need a cool, high quality soft tee. So we're giving that away for this podcast. We always do something really fun and unique. So that being said, I want to jump right into today's guest, Patricia Lizarraga. Lizarraga, is that how you say I say it?
Yes, that's fine.
Yes, okay, great. So I actually found Patricia because every morning I get up around 5:30, and every morning I look for something interesting. I don't feel that I need to waste a lot of time watching the news. I'm very, very pinpointed. So I got up that morning and I decided to watch financial news. Now, I primarily am looking at marketing things, and it said Women's Fund. So I turned it on, I watched it. I was like, wow, I need to tell my Warrior Women members about this. I need to tell more women about this, because this is what Warrior Women in Business is all about. So I reached out to Patricia and I said, you know what, I have this podcast and I have these women around the world that are very thirsty for information around investing in themselves, growing their businesses, and supporting other women-led companies. Would you be so kind to be on the podcast? We had a conversation, and here she is today. So I'm really, really excited to have her on. When I looked at her background, I was very, very impressed by her background, and I think taking a lead, it really just speaks for itself. Taking a lead as someone that taking a lead in finance. I mean, I just got to say, I mean, it sound plain to you, but to me, that's a tough one. And she's really done a lot, not just here in the United States, but also in Latin America. And I'd love for her to share that with us today. She is today the Chief Investment Officer and Managing Partner of Hypatia Women CEO ETF, also known as WCEO. Investing in American public companies with women CEOs. So these are public companies, right? They're traded on the exchanges. They're not small businesses. These are major companies that have female CEOs, which gets me hyper excited. And then with the women CEOs, her investment thesis is women CEOs will outperform, impact, and increase women in leadership. And we all know, if anybody's listened to the podcast and listened to all the leaders that I have on, that women make tremendous moves that drive impact. It doesn't matter if they're in finance or law or marketing, they do. So I'd like to welcome you to the show. That's first of all, and I thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much for Jasmine for having me. I love Warrior Women in Business. I love the title of your podcast, and so I'm excited to, it's energetic. I love that about it.
Good. It's meant to have energy. Okay, so the first question I have is for those of you, now I love Investopedia personally. I love that website. But for those of my Warrior Women members that might not yet invest, maybe they don't even invest their money at all because they have to invest in their business, I'd like you to share, if you could, some definitions. So a few. So like, what is an EFT? How is it different than a stock? How's it different than a mutual fund? Can you have an ETF and a stock at the same time? Like, talk to us a little bit about some definitions before we actually get into what you do.
Sure. So as you guys know, a stock has to do with a company. So you can have one share of Coca-Cola, you can have one share of Apple, you can have one share of NVIDIA, and those are stocks. Now, what ETFs are, it's called an exchange traded fund. So it's a fund like a mutual fund that's made up of many stocks. But the difference between an ETF, exchange traded fund, and a mutual fund is that the ETF trades on a fund. We, the WCEO ETF, trade on the New York Stock Exchange. Therefore, you can buy it and sell it whenever you want. You could even buy it and sell the same day, actually. Oh, so wow. That's very different than a mutual fund. In a mutual fund, you usually have to ask your advisor or go through third party to buy or sell. With an ETF, you can go on Schwab, you can go on E-Trade, you can go on SoFi, put in the ticker, WCEO, say how many shares you want, and you can buy it. So it trades like a stock, right? But you get the diversification of a mutual fund. And in the WCEO specifically, you get 160 companies. So it is a broadly diversified, you're in every sector. So that is what you want, right? There's two rules in investing, two main rules. One is diversification. So WCEO ETF diversified. And the second rule is diversification, also known as don't put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
So you want to spread it around. And the second is compounding. The sooner you start, the better. You can't time the market. So as far as definitions go, an ETF, again, exchange traded fund, it trades on the New York Stock Exchange or NASDAQ. So you can buy and sell in your account, E-Trade, wherever it is that you trade. And it's made up of a number of stocks. And specifically, we're in 160 stocks. And Jonathan, it's really interesting that you, the company you mentioned, because it's a defense stock, and we actually have the two other big and by the way, it used to have a female CEO, no longer.
Oh, but really? I didn't know that about Lockheed.
Marilyn Houston. But now Lockheed had a female CEO, and the other two other big defense contractors in the US are General Dynamics.
Yeah.
And Northrop Grumman.
Mm-hmm.
And guess what? both of them have women. So if you invest in the WCEO women CEOs, so if you invest in the WCEO ETF, you're investing in both of those women.
That's wonderful. Okay, so I have another question again for my audience, right? Sticking on question one is, so is it I like that it sounds like it's it seems like it's a really nice balance between the mutual fund and something more immediate. Am I right? Is that a good way to
Yes,
explain
that
it?
is correct. And it's
so
cheaper.
it's
It's cheaper. On average, mutual funds are much more expensive than ETFs.
and
On average.
it sounds like, correct me if I'm wrong, you have more control, no? Than if you're waiting
The
for
investor,
right,
whoever's
the
buying it,
investor.
much more control because you can, at any given moment, you can say, I don't want it. You put in your order and you get your money the next day.
Wow,
So it's T+1 like any other stock.
that's incredible. So
You can get your money back whenever you want.
so the changes in the growth of the fund,
Mhm.
so you're so does it generally perform better than something like, let's say, like an aggressive mutual fund? And if so, why?
Okay, so our investment thesis is that women CEOs will outperform.
Okay.
The reason why we believe women CEOs will outperform is because, and it's not me saying it, it's Warren Buffett is saying it, right? Warren Buffett says there are impediments to women moving forward. McKinsey says there are impediments to women in the workforce. So because they have those impediments, it's harder for them to get to the top. So by definition,
Right.
the ones that do have to be better than the ones that don't,
Mm-hmm. That makes
right?
sense. Yeah.
Because they have to go over bigger hurdles.
Yeah.
It's like it's like as if the 100-yard dash would beat the hurdles. No, the person that doesn't have the hurdles is going to go
I
faster than
like
the
the
person that has to
analogy.
jump over the hurdles. But what if the runner that's jumping over the hurdles still beats the runner that
That was
doesn't have the
outperforming, right?
hurdles? On average, the average score, that's what we're saying is going on here because
Mhm.
women have more hurdles. So if you can deliver that female factor, right? Just the fact that she's a woman, you should have outperformance. So
Mhm.
we believe that our investment thesis is that our ETF will outperform its benchmark.
Okay.
Now, so that is what we believe.
Okay, got it. Well, it makes sense. Okay, so I'm going to move on to the next question, right?
Sure.
Let's talk about, I always talk to my guests about their experience. I mean, you didn't just land in this world, right? Where you are today, you've done a lot and you've worked hard, and I'm sure you've had to hurdle like we all have, and we all do. So let's talk about your experience in asset management and growth. Well, first of all, I want to know how you got into this banking in the first place. For those that might be interested in careers, because remember, in Warrior Women in Business, we have younger people too, you know.
Sure.
And then what's it like in being an asset manager? What's it like to take control of your finances in a way that you're almost like you're leading women? That's very interesting. So if you could share a little bit about your background and like your choice of the field, and then another thing that a lot of our members and audience attendees want to know at our events is something places where you've made hard decisions, like any one or two maybe times you made a hard decision that have helped you to get to where you are today.
Sure. So I'll start at the very beginning. I love math. I loved math as a child. Today, more women excel at math than men do. And I owned it. And but when
Impressive
you
in
get into
itself.
the upper math levels,
Mhm.
it becomes very, very removed from reality. And so when I got to college, I took I thought I was going to be a archaeology major. And I took an economics class just to check it out. And it was merging math with the real world.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
So
right.
I
Yeah.
felt
Economics. Sure.
so I fell in love with that concept of using mathematical skills to analyze what's happening in the real world. And then there was only one class in my university that had to do with financial markets. And my roommate convinced me to take it. So I said, okay, because I was an econ major. I was not about finance. And I loved it. And I loved the professor and I fell in love. So I started working in the financial services industry in M&A right from the beginning. And as my career progressed, and it was, 15, 18 years into it, I had never had a female client. Because
Yeah.
think about it, investment bankers, their clients are CEOs, CFOs, and so there were no women at the time. This is, talking 20 years ago, very few. And all of a sudden I had a female client. And it just changed my world. I was like, you know what? I want more clients like her. I had an epiphany, more female clients. Kind of like when, Tom Cruise and Jerry Maguire's like, less clients.
Oh my
Like, no,
God,
I want
I am so Jerry Maguire. But go ahead.
to
That's my
Jerry
movie.
Maguire.
I'm so
I was like,
sorry.
more female
Yeah.
clients. That's what I want.
Yeah.
But the only way to do that was to start my own company. So that's
Yeah.
where I took the risk. That's where I jumped on into the void in 2007, right before the financial
Right before
meltdown.
the fall. Wow. Interesting.
But fast forward, so I was always about investing in women. And I had that theory back in 2007 because I started seeing, when I started looking for these female decision makers, I was just seeing these real outperformers. So I said, okay, I'm going to invest in women. But then if you fast forward, I realized and I started investing in early stage. I was an investor in Golden Seeds. I'm an investor in Portfolio. I love how women invest. And I am an investor. I invest in all those funds and I would invest in more. But there's an issue. That's a small part of your portfolio, number one, right? Your alternatives. And number two, it's only for accredited investors. So what you're saying is,
Yes, that's
unless you're
also
rich,
true.
you can't
Yeah.
invest in women. And
Right.
that
That's been a big problem.
really bothered me. I'm
Yeah.
like, why can only rich women invest in women? Why can't the rest of us invest in women? And I said, I'm going to design a financial product that first of all shows that women outperform, and two, lets every woman who wants to invest in women, right? So think about it. If you're if you're in college, you can go open up a SoFi account and you can buy one share of WCEO and it's $27 today. It was at 34 at some point, but now it's, market's not helping us.
Yeah.
But if you're in your 20s and you're starting to accumulate some assets, and you have $100,000 in your account, then maybe you can buy $3,000 or $4,000 of WCO ETF. And if you are that accredited investor and you have $1 million in your investment account, it could be your IRA, it could be savings, I don't know. Then maybe you want to put in a little bit more, 40, 50,000. So what the WCEO allows women to do is, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you can be a part of it. This is not about wealthy women only. Now, again, I am all for early stage investor. I am an investor in each of those funds I have put my money in. I put my money where my mouth is. But I want something that everybody can do. This is about the democratization, right? Think about it. Every adult woman in the United States, I believe, should own at least one share. Because if not, your portfolio, by definition, is 95% men CEOs or 98%, above 95%. So I ask you, is that on purpose?
Right.
Here we are talking about women all day long, women this, women that.
Yeah.
How much of your money is invested in women? Leadership. And
leadership is the whole key. Yeah.
Women in leadership. And it's so easy to do it with the WCO. There's never existed. It doesn't exist anywhere else in the world. You can only do it in the United States of America. And I'll say something else about the United States of America. The United States of America is a land of creativity, and it's a land of entrepreneurship, and it's the land of making the world be the way you want it to be.
Of course it is. It's the culture of the United States that leads the world. As the Arts and Culture Network board director here, I mean, it is creativity, and we can make these changes. And I do believe that, there's an eye on entrepreneurism, but I love what you're talking about is female entrepreneurism, and actually, I think like lifting a veil on it, because I definitely think that a lot of women in business don't know about this. They don't really, or maybe they don't really understand what you just said, which is you might have stocks or bonds or mutual funds, but I think you don't really recognize that they're male led, it's not something that you really think about. You're just looking at how can I increase the value of my money? You're not really
Right.
looking
I
at, you're not
understand
really
that.
like making those type of decisions, male, female, it's more based on the numbers, I would guess.
But the numbers tell you that women outperform.
Yeah.
And we just got our April numbers today. And yep, we outperform a benchmark after fees.
Yeah. Well, it's very, very important. Okay, so I'm going to jump right into a question I talk about at Warrior Women. I'm going to go a little bit sideways here. So we talk about leaders supporting leaders. Really, it's really important. I feel that, I mean, just what you're talking about investing in companies led by women. Okay, great, right? But a lot of the leaders sometimes are siloed. And so I think it's really important that we support each other. I'd like to understand, like, where have you seen this in your own career in terms of leaders supporting others to sustain women in top positions? Because this, at least at the level of a small to mid-size woman business owner, it's difficult to get that to actually happen. And I think that's why there are so many women's organizations. But have there been times in your career where you've seen women leaders coming together, whether it's like a round table or something you're involved with as a speaker or leader?
Sure. So the first thing I want to say is women support women. It's a fact. Women are made to think that women don't support women, but we have the facts. We're invested in all women. And I can tell you that women's senior leadership teams are 80% more female than those of male CEOs. Women's senior leadership teams are 36% female. They're still 65% male, but they're 35% female. Men, 20%. So women support women almost twice as much as men do. Is that a surprise? No,
No.
because we know that that's happening. Now, why are there so many women's groups? Because in most organizations, it's still mainly men in leadership.
Yeah.
And so we try to turn to each other. But the facts of the matter are that women support women. And that's why we need to invest in them. Because if there's more women CEOs, women will rise. Women will and do. The facts are telling us that women are transforming the corporate talent pipeline.
Yeah.
Right? So that is what we need to invest in. And it's small, and it's startups as well. But again, startups are not appropriate for for most people in the United States to invest in. But everybody should be invested in the US stock market, and really everybody is, right? It's rare today that somebody would stay in their job forever, right? So you probably have an IRA, an individual retirement account, because that's what you got when you left your last company. It turned in your 401k went into an IRA.
Right.
You have the choice. You have the choice to put some of that to work.
Yeah.
To accelerate this change.
Well, I think that you've answered some of the other questions. So you talked a little bit about what the fund does. I'd be interested to know how you choose the companies, and if the female leaders of these companies, are they involved? I mean, in the fund itself, do they communicate?
The
Or
short
how does
answer,
that work?
so first of all, we choose all the women. The only criteria we have is size. Their companies have to be worth more than $500 million.
Okay.
Because again, this is not a company of small, this is not a fund of small, volatile, risky companies. We're trying to make it in that publicly traded equities investment. So all there is size. What we do is our allocation out. So the way we weight the stocks is what gives you the female factor, because we eliminate size and industry as a factor. So we're delivering the female factor. Now, of those 160 women CEOs, I will say I've talked about a dozen, maybe a dozen of them. We've interviewed, we have an interview program with them, and I think on our third. And some of them are more involved than others, and some of them are great. I'm going to point to Jill Evenko at Chart Industries. One of the most amazing CEOs I've ever met, and one of the most engaged and engaging and just generous with her time, even though she runs a $10 billion company. So those are examples of women that I know are supporting women. I asked her to introduce me as people that she would think was interested in. Oh my God, she not only that, she got me speaking engagements. She introduced me to, CEOs of companies that were 10 times the size of her company. I mean, she's I wish she was my little sister.
She sounds like a great person, I'll tell you that.
She is. Buy the stock even. I mean, but you don't have to take a risk with one stock. You can buy the WCEO and then you get exposure to her.
Yeah, it's wonderful. So you talked about your investment thesis a lot, quite a bit up front, right? And so talk about a little bit more. So if somebody's, I mean, I understand the sellable points here quite a bit, but in terms of so let's say there's a woman who, is doing traditional investing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So she has a stockbroker, she has somebody, that she's relying on, or maybe she's really involved and she's educating herself, but she also has someone that's managing her wealth for her, right? So what are some of the impacts that you think she would want to know about further than what you talked about for her to start to diversify? You talked the word diversify, obviously, is very important for her to start to diversify into that. And how do you think she could look at this as something that might be a little bit different? And what are some resources that she could look at to learn from?
So first of all, if your portfolio is being managed by a third person,
Yeah.
you probably already have a well-diversified portfolio because you have a professional managing it. And therefore, you'll probably have some large cap, you'll probably have some mid cap, and you'll probably have some small cap. The WCO is considered a small cap allocation, not because we're invested in small cap, but because we equally weight it. So that's what Morningstar and Schwab tell us, that's the category they've put us in. So that's what you would ask your advisor. You'd say, well, what do I have? What percentage of my portfolio is in small cap? Let's say it's 3%. That's what you would say. Well, can I put part of that into the WCO? And then your advisor might say, but that's an unproven theory. We have 8 years of data and 2 years of trading data, but I've gotten that from advisors. Oh, that's an unproven theory. That's all those studies that talk about it. They've been debunked. Well, you then have to put your foot down. That's number one. Number two, they might tell you that the fund is too small.
Right.
And that's something that is a misconception, that ETFs that are small are illiquid, because it's not true. ETFs are as liquid as their underlying securities because we're traded by Citadel. Citadel is the biggest US equities trader in the world. And they will kill their grandmother for a penny to make sure that they're not living things on the table. I mean, that's what they do. That's what those traders, they're great people. What I'm saying is that they don't they make their money by making a penny or half a penny on every trade. Right. So they really clear the market at the fair price. And that's, obviously we're trading big companies. So there is no liquidity. That's an argument that we've heard, but it's just not right. So if you're talking to a third parties, that's what you would say. You'd say, you know what, I'd like to change out my small cap. Well, but you don't have any small cap. Well, then I want to buy some small cap.
And like you said, you could change it at any time. It doesn't sound like you're in the game for a lot. You don't need to be, but if you're doing well, I mean, you could stay there, right? Does that sound about accurate?
We're outperforming our benchmark. So the fact of the matter is, if you bought the WCO a year ago and got rid of your small cap, you would be doing better than if you didn't. If you invested in women in the category that we told you to, you would be very, very, very happy.
Okay, great. Okay, got it. Okay.
You would be happy.
And I guess I have another quick question that I'm going to jump on. So then I'm just being extremely practical. So then the broker right? In this instance, let's say if you have a broker. So but the broker would benefit just as much, right?
Actually, maybe not. And that is
Okay.
another part of the problem because
Oh,
sometimes ETFs are if you're being charged on your asset base,
yeah.
right? So if you have, X amount of money, you get charged a percentage of that every year in
Yep, yep.
basis points.
Hmm.
Sometimes in large portfolios, ETFs are carved out of that. So there could be an incentive for your broker not to want you to do it because they don't make any money on it.
Oh,
But um in a smaller portfolio, that's probably not true. And so they'd be indifferent.
okay. Good to understand. Just getting educated, of course. I don't know how many brokers are listening to the podcast, but you never know. Okay, so when I started and I introduced you, you said you love warrior women, which makes me blush. But
I love it.
I love it too. I love that you love it, I mean, it's a good thing, and I've had I again I have the best guests. So one of my favorite guests was Shannon Lee, Bruce Lee's daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And she wrote she's a producer of Warrior on HBO. I mean, forget about it. And when I talked to her about what it means to be a warrior, she went the gentle warrior way. So I think that the term can go any way that it suits anyone who hears it. So I wonder when you hear the term warrior women in business, what that means to you.
To me, just what jumped into my mind is the tenacity of women. The
Mhm.
tenacity to know that you've got to jump over the hurdles, even though maybe the person next to you doesn't have to, just to keep up.
Yeah. Mhm.
And that is because you're a warrior, the tenacity is in your blood. You know that that's what you have to do. And so that's why that's what came into my mind. And that's what I think is amazing about the name.
Thank you. It seems to have a really good recall around that. I think that women that tenacity is a key. I was speaking at I forget which conference. I think it was NAM, and we had all women. I speak a lot in the music industry, and we had a panel of all female leaders and educators in the music industry, and they asked me what it is that what one word I would say to women that want to get into that industry, which is very male dominated. And I said resilience, like that's it, resilience. Resilience and tenacity. I think they really go hand in hand to be a woman.
Yeah, and I love it. And every industry is male dominated.
Well, most, yes, I would
Now,
agree.
every single one.
Yeah.
Yep. The women that at least in the public markets, the industry that is least male dominated is the biotechnology industry.
How funny. I've had a lot of clients in that industry. That's interesting. I was thinking fashion, but I'm
No,
probably wrong.
none of the
It
major
should be. You
fashion,
think it should be?
none of them, I mean, okay, let's see. What do we have in our portfolio?
Yeah. Do you have fashion companies in there?
We have Tapestry,
Okay.
and
Nice.
we have Abercrombie and Fitch.
Oh, okay.
And so those are the two that come to mind.
Mm,
Um, but I think, I know that the CEO of Chanel is a woman, Lena Nair,
of course,
but I believe that for the other fashion houses, they're men. I
yeah.
think Valentino might have had a female CEO for a while. Um, but the fashion industry is not dominated by women. It is not at any level, not at the designer level, and
Yeah, I guess now that I think about it,
and
designers
not
are
at
mainly
the
men.
business level either.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, so I'm gonna keep going. So okay, I love that you talked about the 20-year-old. That's because Warrior Women is split between entrepreneur members, artist members, I'm also an artist, and executives, right? So I like that you talked about starting when you're young and the $27, right? So I guess overall, I wanted to ask, why is it important to act now instead of, like sometimes with investment decisions, especially when you're a business owner, we have a lot of investment decisions and it's not in stocks. It's in our people. It's in it's in our equipment, it's in our real estate, you know. So if So for the typical woman business owner, not someone that's in your class, but someone that's just a typical, but maybe they own a string of salons, let's say, right? Why would you say it's important for those people to act now with investing in something like this?
So what you want is to have your assets working for you, right? As entrepreneurs, we are working 24, I work a lot.
I know.
I'm doing more work than anybody else is, and in my company, and I love it. But if I stop working, that's a big chunk of the energy that this company has.
Hmm.
My stock portfolio, which right now consists primarily of WCEO ETF, to be honest, and the private companies that I've discussed, that's working for me whether I'm on vacation or not, right? So that's why you want to have part of your pie of wealth, some of it tied to you, because that's what you can influence, and some of it that just is working for you while you sleep. And so if you start investing when you're 18, right? Before 18, your parents would be investing for you. But at 18, you open up your own Roth IRA.
Hmm.
And if you max that out for 4 years and never invest another penny, you end up with over $1.5 million.
What an
Just
incredible
by what
thing.
you did in college. Now it's hard
Yeah,
to do, but all I'm saying is
incredible.
that's when you're 60, but you're 22 to 60, and if you have 40 years, or 20 to 60, you've got 40 years in between there. So halfway through, you're 40 years old. You want to do your own thing. You can afford to, because you know that you've got this other stuff stashed away that
That's
you
right.
started when you were in college, and you can take a risk, because 20 years from now, if my company didn't work out, I won't be a bag lady. I've got my retirement. So that's why it's important. It doesn't matter if you start when you're 20, when you're 30, when you're 40 or 50, but the sooner you start, because now that people live till they're 100,
Oh, yeah, of
right?
course.
So
And
if you're
definitely women live longer.
exactly, if you're
Mhm.
60 years old and you start now, and you have to live, and you're working till you're 80, it's as if you had been 40, 60 is a new 40 in investing for those, because women were not taught to do this. But
No,
we
that's right.
have, last night I was giving it, I'm in London, so I did this at 1:30 in the morning, because this was in California.
Oh, yeah, I
I
get it.
gave a lecture to some young women at the University of Santa Clara in California.
Okay.
And it's something that we give to college aged women. It's called the Hypatia Investathon,
Hmm.
right? You're investing for the long term, and we explain compounding
It's great.
and diversification, and that's all you need, sweetheart. Let's start now. So that's a big passion of mine, is to get women investing.
I love it. I love it. So where can they how do they go about like getting involved, finding out about it?
Well, part of our challenge has actually been getting known, because since we're not on the wealth platforms, nobody knows we exist. Since nobody knows we exist, nobody's buying the stock.
I
So what we're doing
I get it.
in May is
Do marketing. Yeah.
we're launching something that allows people to register their investment, basically be part of the club.
Oh, I see.
So it's going to be called Hypatia Nation. We want every woman in America to be part of the Hypatia Nation.
Love it.
And what does the Hypatia Nation stand for? It stands for women. It stands for investing in women. And we don't care if you've invested $27, one share, or $27 million, a million shares.
Hmm.
We're all part of Hypatia Nation. It's free. We are not charging. We're just saying we will connect you to all the other women that are investing.
Oh, I
So
love that.
so all women investors will be connected. And if we get the 100 million, great. But I hope everybody who listens to this podcast is inspired and wants to be part. And we understand that this is a two-way street in terms of all of us supporting each other, right? So the fact that we have this audience of investors will allow us to allow a platform for other people that want to talk to women about other things.
Right,
Why
exactly.
not? They'll be in the group. We're not gonna, it's gonna be an if people can post whatever they want.
I love this. So when did you say that's launching? or?
It's starting in May.
Oh, in
It's,
May.
I don't,
It
yeah,
is May.
yeah, no, so
So we're on track.
yeah, we're on track. We just need, we're in the beta.
Yeah, no, I understand. All right, great. Well, no, I think that I mean I'm totally inspired. I'm becoming an investment nerd since I contacted you.
Oh,
No, it's
good.
important. It's really important. It's really important because we get so busy, women business owners, in running our businesses.
Yeah.
Yes. But I think
But you just want to, you just want to put a little bit of that, whatever happened when you left your corporate job and you ended up with an IRA, what's that invested in?
oh, I know, and it compounds like crazy when you do it right. I've done it on my own.
Yeah, yeah.
So I understand. So if people want to get in touch with you or in touch with the company, what's the best way to go about it?
So our information is very public. WCEOETF.com has an info. My personal email is on my website. If you reach out to me by LinkedIn, I will answer. I'm not as good as Jill Ivanko, who answers every email. She's unbelievable, but she's like my hero on the
Oh,
women help women side. I've never met anybody like her. She's so much fun. We interviewed her. I mean, she's, like I said, wish she was my little sister.
well, she sounds amazing.
She's amazing. Listen to their, if you go onto Teen Alliance website, you could probably see the interview.
Oh,
It's
I'm
just
gonna
so much
watch.
fun. She just tells her story and she's amazing. And she leads this industrial technology company. It's fantastic.
Yeah. No, that's what it takes. It
Yeah.
really I mean, I started my career at IBM and it was not many women. My boss was a woman. She was my role model for a long time. I get it. And she did what she said she would do and embrace women and help them grow. That's why I'm here, right? At this level.
Yep.
And I think that's what it takes. So, well, great. I mean, so as part of the show, obviously, we're going to look out for emails because we're going to be sharing more information about Hypatia and Hypatia Nation and how you can get involved. And it's really to benefit you. So, I mean, it's a no-brainer to me. But of course, getting educated is very, very important. So thank you so much for educating us and answering all my dumb questions on investing because they're important. People need to know, they need to know. And age doesn't really matter. Sometimes you start investing when you're young. Sometimes you start when you're older. It just depends on your education and where you grew up and that type of thing. But I don't think it's ever too late to invest at all. You could be 99, in my opinion, and invest. So
Right. Because
I don't
every
care what
dollar,
your age is.
what you do with your money there's
Yeah,
never a stupid question. It's your money. You get to ask any question you want, and you get to ask it as many times as you want until you're satisfied with the answer.
absolutely. Absolutely. I couldn't agree with more. So we do at Warrior Women, we do quite a number of events, and our events are intentionally education and fun. And I try to make it the perfect mixture. So we do, we have we have fire chats, we have panel talks, I run a conference series, but there's always a fun element because I have an entire arsenal of artists that come in and do fun things. So when we started announcing some of these events, more events coming up, Patricia, I'd love to offer you an invite to come talk because I think that it's so important. It's not just we market, we market companies. It's not enough to market. It's also how do you take care of yourself and invest in your own financial growth. So I think that's really important. And when those things come up, I'll certainly let you know. But a couple of things I wanted to talk about Warrior Women before we turn off today, because I think you've answered a lot of our questions, and I think it's up to the audience to learn a little bit more and get involved. So with Warrior Women in Business, we just came off of I'm sure you did a lot too for Women's History Month. We had a concert, we had a connections event, Warrior Women in History. It was a lot of fun. We raised money like we always do for the familial community in New York City. We're having events coming up. We touched on fashion. We always do something in fashion. So in the fall, we're actually planning a designer talk back. We're doing something with a Broadway producer, Broadway talk back. So look for events coming up for sure with Warrior Women in Business. We have a number of different membership levels, including students. It's very important to get students involved early by connecting them with their heroes, which are mentors in business and intern opportunities. We do a lot of different things from students all the way up to senior level executives female leaders that just need to connect with other female leaders or want to shine a spotlight on a new business through one of our conferences or events. So all of that stuff is available on our website, warriorwomenbusiness.com. And again, if you're interested in learning more about what we're doing, join us in social. We're always planning interesting things. And more importantly, I think we're open to ideas. So, don't be afraid to reach out if you have an idea for an event or you want to get involved with a podcast or something that we're doing. I hear all the time, I love Warrior Women, I want to get involved. And then they don't get involved. I think a lot of times they're just afraid. So I would say, please reach out. It's almost like the same thing with investing. Don't be afraid to invest. Don't be afraid to reach out, because we need to lift up women that are, want to become strong women in business, want to become female CEOs in public led companies. I mean, I know I do. So please reach out to Warrior Women in Business. If you want to get in touch, you want to get involved with our events, you want to connect with any of our guests, please do reach out at warriorwomeninbusiness.com. And please do reach out to Patricia and her firm, Hypatia, and get involved with Hypatia Nation. Look out for the advancements that she's making. I think I reached out to, it seems like less than a month ago. And wow, her company is like making movements so fast. So getting involved with a company like hers, that it's an accelerator, would be a very smart thing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So do you have any other comments or
No,
advice you'd like to add?
just, thank you so much for having me. Thank you for the opportunity to talk to your followers. And remember WCEOETF.com. That's where you're going to see the pictures of all the women that you're investing in. That is going to be where you get inspired, and it's super easy to do. It really is. And together we can really change the face of leadership in the United States. And that's, I think, what we all want is a level playing field.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. And I think my warrior women should start sharing their stories after they invest. I know I will.
Absolutely.
I will. So again, thank you so much for your time. I know there's a big time difference, so I appreciate you coming on with all your travel and all the busy things that you're doing, and hope to have you on again, or more importantly, be a part of one of our events, which are really drive the most impact I see with our members.
Super. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so that's it. I'm Jasmine Sandler, CEO of JS Media and Warrior Women in Business, signing off for episode 69, and look forward to meeting all of you in the next podcast or the next event. Take care.
All right. That was fun. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. I'm just going to